of Mark, chapter 13, verses 1 through 8. Listen now to the word of God as it comes to us in the gospel. As he came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, large stones and what large buildings." Then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will this be, and what will be the sign that all these things are about to be accomplished?" Then Jesus began to say, "Beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and many will be led astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is still to come. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. This is but the beginning of the birth pangs." Here ends the gospel lesson appointed for today. Please pray with me. O God, in this season of Thanksgiving, we give you thanks for all the things you have blessed us, but most of all for your holy word, which stretches us, teaches us, pushes us, and takes us to places sometimes we would not want to go. But it is the same word of yours that is the word of life, and will give us life evermore. Amen. For many years now, I have subscribed to a cartoon called The Wizard of Id. How many of you know it? Wonderful. It's published almost, and I checked, in hundreds of thousands of newspapers daily. It even has a Polish version of it. And it is just incredibly funny. Not light funny, but sarcastic and dry humor funny, which I really enjoy immensely. For those of you who don't know it, it takes place in an imaginary kingdom called Id, which is ruled by a mighty yet very small king called simply the King. He likes to quarter, torture people. He is an atrocious leader and an atrocious ruler, and the only people that really take him seriously is his mother, who constantly tells him off, and his pet dragon, who kind of ignores him. His entourage is as funny as it is ridiculous, and I will give you two examples. In one of the comic strips, the king's wife, Blanche, says, "Swear to me you married me for my body and not for my money." Well, the problem is he actually did marry her for the money. So in the next comic strip, he puts on a lightning conductor hat, grounds it thoroughly, and says, "May lightning strike me. It was not for your money." Naturally, when the queen sees what he's wearing, she's not very impressed. But I got hooked on The Wizard of Id many years ago in another cartoon strip. The king is on the balcony talking to his people who are gathered below. And he goes like this, "My people," he says, "I do not want you to think of me simply as your king, and yourselves as my subjects. Think more in terms of being sheep, and me being your shepherd." To which an anonymous voice from the crowd says, "I have a feeling the fleecing time is coming." Fleecing time. Yes, you guys, it is that most wonderful time of the year when you hear your annual stewardship sermon. If you think it is difficult for you, think about me, because it is all about me. My family never spoke about money. That was the one side It was communist Poland, so if you had money, there was nothing to buy. So you see how incredibly handicapped I am for this exercise. And so, like all good Polish people, we argued sex, we argued politics, we argued religion at the table. All that was fine, but not money. And looking at my clergy friends' Facebook statuses, it is so easy to become jaded about the whole process. For the past 2 weeks, I was saying, sigh, my stewardship sermon. I'm like, dear God, I just survived my stewardship sermon. Not sure the congregation did either. And so, it's recent time for oh so many. And from the preacher's perspective, it is the time you really need to talk about something that you would really not bother to talk about. And it is the one time of the year where all clergy dream of having an established church where you all just have to pay taxes. Good old Germany. So in the spirit of Wizard of Id, let us look at jaded and cynical. And then let us look at gratitude. In the first week of the book of Samuel, we encounter a family beset by tragedy, but a tragedy that is also a little bit compounded by human behavior. Elkanah has 2 wives, not 1 wife, he has 2 wives, but loves only one. The first wife, who has done all in her human powers to earn his love, she has given him sons, and even daughters, is not loved. He loves the second one, who it is assumed is younger and more beautiful, and who has no children. And to rub it in front of the first wife, he always gives his second wife a double portion. Now, naturally, the second wife takes it out on the first, who though barren, who takes it out on the first, who is Hannah. Now, Elkanah, like so many men faced with difficult family situation, has a number of options. He can try to solve it, or he can just plainly go for denial. Well, what do you think he does? Why is your heart sad? He asks Hannah. Really? Why is your heart sad? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because your first wife, the one who has all the children, is picking on me. And since she has children and I don't, when you go to see the pearly gates, I'm stuck with her and her children. How do you think that's going to play out? So, unlike you, dear husband, who loves me so much, I'm not really looking forward to retirement. That's kind of it, the broad strokes, the family dynamics. So Hannah goes to the temple and prays. Now the priest at the time is Eli. He was once a great priest, and the operative word here is once. We know from other passages that he is past his best preaching days and times. His sons now run the temple, and they run the temple as if it is a business, getting the best meat for themselves, and in time turning the temple also to a place where they can meet women and have fun with. Again, to all of you who remember and can name all those famous televangelists that went a step too far in pastoral care, nothing has changed much, has it? And so there is Eli, who is unable to deal with the family situation of his own, sitting at the temple because he'd probably rather not pray because he gets some feedback from God. And he sees a woman praying in the temple with her lips moving silently. And what does this great priest say? He goes for jaded. She must be drunk. And so full of priestly rage, she begins to reproach her, saying, "How long will you make a debacle of yourself, woman? Stop drinking." And then Hannah speaks. It is very easy to be jaded and cynical these days. And we always have a very good excuse please, don't get me wrong. The politicians only care about themselves. Doctors don't visit patients anymore. Teachers don't teach like they used to. Parents don't bring their children up like they should. Or, church is only about money these days. I would like it to be about things more spiritual. Well, let me be blunt, and I keep on telling this to all people. Just because we talk to Jesus and we talk about Jesus doesn't mean that Jesus pays our bills. I wish we had $1 million endowment or millions of dollars endowment so we wouldn't have to have this stewardship pledge campaign every year, and we could talk about things more spiritual. But we don't. And helpful feedback, I was in a church whose endowment was into, I think, $15 million now. And let me tell you, that can be not only a blessing, but a huge curse as well. The church has an average attendance of 30 people. The church is, for all its faults, for all its quirkiness, for all the funny things I wear to lead worship, the only place created for the good of those in, but also outside it. But the church is only also what you make of her. The church can only thrive if you make it thrive. If you cast away your cynicism and sarcasm and let her and God do the work with your help and with your devotion that this world needs so badly to be done. Eli will only recognize the faith in Hannah and her devotion when he gets off his high horse of being a mighty priest and looks into hope and courage of a woman who is in a bad situation but wants to make it better. He will have Hannah, and if you recall, her son Samuel will become one of the greatest priests and prophets in Israel's history. But in order for all of that to happen, Eli must change and open his heart to generosity and the will and the providence of God. Now here at First Church, we are not big in numbers. I looked at a history book, and at our peak time, we had almost 800 members and twice as many friends. We now have, and Dan Marino is here to correct me, roughly around 197 members and some 20 to 30 friends. It's not a mega church, but it's a great church. And if you don't believe me, consider these things, and I will list only a few that this church does, not just for itself, but for the community. Today, our youth will assemble hygiene kits to donate to the local homeless shelter. Because in 2013 and 12, we still have homelessness in this great country. Once a month, we feed the folks at our Father's table, and we are thinking of starting a bread and soup ministry once a month too, to feed during the cold winter times those who are hungry or just hungry for fellowship. Every week, we drop off dozens of items at the food pantry. And last year, if you recall, we went crazy. We had over 1,000 items during our Mission 1 initiative. We prepared and gave out Easter baskets, and we helped with kids' supplies and school supplies and backpacks. Our meeting house is open to groups like AA, Early Risers, and other organizations who give to the local communities. Our fabulous women, and I think men, make our prayer shawls and take them religiously to the local hospital to donate so people who are in hospital and lonely and in misery can feel wrapped around not just a piece of clothes, but also wrapped around with prayer and fellowship and good thoughts. A group goes from this church to New Orleans ever since Hurricane Katrina to help rebuild houses. And through the UCC Neighbors in Need collection last month, you helped for the victims of Hurricane Sandy too. We helped put out 30 children, mainly girls, through school last year in India, and are continuing with us with that partnership. You've heard the bells, you've heard the choir, you hear covenant. They make worship so much more enjoyable than our Puritan ancestors would have approved of. And there is much more. And if you want to know more, or you think you could do more, not just with talents, not just with money, but with your talents, do go and check out the different ministries table during coffee hour this Sunday. We can and are doing so much for this world out of love and gratitude for what Jesus has done to us. But it depends on you. Now, in the second Old Testament reading, we heard Hannah sing her song. And if you look at it, it resembles closely the Magnificat sung by Mary when she found out she was pregnant with Jesus. She sings about all the glorious things that God has done to her and to others, and of all those great things that will come to us, and to all those who wait on God. But the Magnificat of both Mary and Hannah began with a simple act of faith. The things we do here at First Church, in its very existence, they begin with the act of faith on your part. Yes, that part when you trust God, and you thank God for all the things God has done to you, and you give back in gratitude, and not just tip God in return. The great things that we do here at First Church begin with God. But to quote a great mystic, God has no other feet than yours, no other hands than yours, no other heart than yours. And sadly, for you, no other pen and checkbook than yours, and no other time table than yours. My people, I would like to think of yourselves as sheep, and of me as your shepherd. But when you wander around downstairs and fill in those stewardship forms found in your bulletin today and put them in that delightful little pot, don't think of this as fleecing, but rather as thanksgiving for all that God did for you and those you love. And may God guard and bless your thoughts and your minds and your hearts and your times and your pens today and in the days to come. Amen. Let us spend a few minutes in the quiet.